Sherlock Holmes. You hear the name, and an image just pops into your head, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The ultimate detective.
Yeah, that incredibly sharp mind. His knack for solving the absolute trickiest puzzles. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle really created someone lasting.
He did. And it's more than just the stories, I think. It's his approach that's so fascinating. Those observation skills, the logic, it's almost, well, superhuman.
Which gets you thinking, right? Could we actually learn to think a bit more like that? You listening now, could you use those kinds of mental tools for your own problems? Make better decisions?
That's exactly what we're looking into today. We found this source material that argues, yeah, you actually can.
Yeah,
By understanding and consciously using certain thinking techniques.
it suggests we can sharpen our minds, kind of like Holmes.
Pretty much. And the source doesn't just tell us, it shows us.
Right.
It dives into a really classic Holmes story to illustrate how his mind works.
Right, a story that puts his abilities right there on display. It's got suspense, a conspiracy.
And Holmes being brilliant, of course.
So that story gives us a kind of foundation.
Exactly. Lets us see the principles in action before we break them down.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then. We're going to pull apart this source, find those actionable techniques, and figure out how you can use them in your own life. Sharpen that mind, Holmes style. Let's do it.
All right. So the source starts us off with a real nail-biter. The mystery of the Red Skull. Paints a picture of London, kind of gripped by fear. Something strange is going on.
Yeah, you can practically feel those foggy nights, the danger in the air. And then Mrs. Elizabeth Martin arrives.
She's clearly distraught. Her husband, a wealthy businessman, he's been murdered. And there's this bizarre detail. A red skull mark left at the scene,
Super unsettling. And the police, they're stumped.
which tells you right away this needs a different kind of thinking. Mrs. Martin turning to Holmes shows just how desperate she is and, well, his reputation.
So Holmes and Watson head to the victim's office. The source describes it as, pretty normal looking.
Except for that one thing.
That red skull mark, apparently drawn in blood, it just leaps out.
And this is pure Holmes, isn't it? He doesn't just see it. He pulls out the magnifying glass, studies it closely. He notes the lines clean, precise. He figures, okay, this wasn't some random thug. This took skill, intent. That's deduction right there, from observation to conclusion.
Right. Even Watson picks up on it. This isn't just violence. There's something more calculated going on.
So Holmes digs deeper. And it turns out this red skull, it's not just in Martin's office. It's popping up elsewhere in London.
A pattern.
Exactly. And that pattern leads him to suspect a wider conspiracy. He uncovers this secret group calling themselves the Red Skull.
And what are they up to?
They're targeting rich Londoners,
Yeah.
basically pressuring them, making demands, using the scary symbol to intimidate people.
Okay, classic secret society stuff.
Well, here's the twist. Holmes finds out it's not just like low-level crooks. It's actually a secret club of prominent businessmen, leaders in society.
Oh, so they're using the mark against rivals to keep their power.
Seems like it. Which then raises the big question.
Why kill one of their own? Why Mr. Martin?
Holmes puts it together.
Yeah.
The logical step is Martin must have crossed the group somehow, betrayed them maybe, went against their rules. It makes sense, given the context.
So based on that deduction, he hatches a plan.
A very clever one. He gets Mrs. Martin to invite all the suspect businessmen to her husband's funeral.
Ooh, using grief as cover.
Yep. They think they're attending a funeral, but it's actually a trap. The police are waiting in the wings,
You can just picture the scene, all these powerful men pretending to mourn.
hiding their secrets. And then, boom, Holmes walks in right after the service, points a finger, accuses them all. Conspiracy.
Classic Holmes move. But he doesn't just accuse them, right? He has proof.
That's the key. He's gathered solid evidence throughout the whole investigation. It's not just a hunch. It's backed by facts and logic.
And the result?
The Red Skull organization gets exposed. The guilty parties are arrested. London breathes a sigh of relief. And Holmes, well, he adds another complex case to his files.
It's a great story to show how he operates.
Absolutely. The source uses it perfectly to illustrate his unique way of understanding things and, well, solving problems.
Yeah.
It shows that even the really baffling stuff can be figured out with rigorous thinking.
So taking that story as our launch pad, what's the first big technique the source pulls out? It seems to be all about observation, his incredible power to notice things.
Exactly. His attention to detail. The source brings up that famous Holmes quote.
You see, but do not observe.
Right. And that's not just a clever line, is it? It points to a huge difference. Seeing is passive. Just letting light hit your eyes, observing is active, it's intentional, you're looking for meaning.
Okay, so how do we, bridge that gap? How do we get better at observing? The source has some practical tips. First one is about complete observation. Like
Mhm.
when you encounter something, really look at it, all the details, color, texture, size, what's around it. The example given is entering a room. Don't just walk through it. Scan it, notice the layout, where things are placed, anything odd.
Because those small details often hold the key, right? They build the bigger picture.
And linked to that, the second tip, attentive listening.
Which is way more than just hearing words.
Yeah, it's paying attention to body language. Are they fidgeting, looking away? Their facial expressions, do they match the words? And tone of voice? Hesitant, confident, strained.
It's multi-layered listening. It gives you so much more information about what's really going on with someone. You spot the inconsistencies.
The source also suggests, memory and focus games, making it active practice.
Yeah, like deliberately observing a room for a minute, then turning away and listing everything you can remember.
Or even trying to recall details about people you saw yesterday, what they wore, maybe something specific about their office. It strengthens those mental muscles.
And the fourth tip is about spotting small inconsistencies. Training yourself to notice things that are slightly off.
Like typos when you're reading. Or if someone contradicts themselves in a conversation.
Exactly. Sharpening that ability to see what doesn't fit, it's huge for problem solving.
The source uses that great anecdote Holmes asking Watson about the stairs.
Oh yeah, the 17 steps?
Watson climbed them hundreds, maybe thousands of times, had no idea how many. But Holmes?
He knew. 17. Because he observed, he didn't just use them, he paid attention to them.
It shows how easily we can tune out the familiar if we're not consciously paying attention.
Complexly. For Watson, they were just functional. For Holmes, they were data points. And developing that skill, that intentional attention, it changes everything. You gather so much more information.
And the payoff for us, for you listening, doing this can really shift how you see the world. Better understanding, spotting problems earlier, finding better solutions at work, at home, everywhere.
It boils down to that conscious shift, doesn't it? From just letting the world wash over you to actively engaging with it, being present and attentive. It unlocks so much.
Okay, technique number 2. This one's about memory, how we store and manage information. The source uses a fantastic metaphor from Maria Konnikova, the brain attic.
The brain attic, yes. It's a great way to think about it. Your mind is like storage space.
Like a loft or an attic in a house.
Exactly. And like a real attic, it's got limited space. If you just cram everything in there, all sorts of random junk.
It gets messy, disorganized. You can't find anything you actually need.
Right. But Holmes, he's very selective. He only stores what he thinks is important and useful in his brain attic. And he keeps it tidy, organized, so he can grab what he needs instantly.
So it's about mental curation, being strategic about what you remember.
That's the core principle. Selective memory. Focus on retaining information that's relevant. Actively try to clear out the clutter, the trivial stuff, the useless facts.
Why? So the important stuff is easier to find.
Exactly. When your mind isn't cluttered, the essential details are right there, ready to use for thinking, problem solving, making decisions. It makes you faster, more accurate.
Like having a well-organized filing system instead of just a pile of papers.
Precisely. The source uses the example of math formulas. If you use certain ones all the time, focus on really knowing those. Don't clutter your attic trying to remember every single obscure formula you learned once.
That makes sense. And just like a real attic needs clearing out sometimes.
Our brain attic needs maintenance too. We should periodically review what's in there. Is this information still useful? Still relevant? Or is it outdated junk? Letting go of the unnecessary is key.
It keeps the essential stuff accessible.
Right. An organized memory means you can retrieve and apply knowledge much more effectively. You maximize your mental resources.
And one last point on this. The source says we need to actively refresh important memories.
Yeah, it's not just store and forget. You have to revisit key information now and then. It strengthens the memory, keeps it sharp, and easy to recall when you actually need it, like backing up in certain files.
Right, reinforcing those connections.
It ensures that crucial information stays reliable and accessible in your long-term storage.
Okay, technique number 3 takes us into maybe a less obvious aspect of Holmes. Imagination and creativity. We think of him as pure logic. Right?
We do, often. But the source makes a strong case that his genius wasn't just logic. His imagination played a huge role.
How so?
Well, he didn't just stick to the facts in front of him. He used his imagination to picture different possibilities, different scenarios. He'd go beyond the evidence to explore what could be true.
So not just deductive, but also speculative in a
Yeah.
structured way.
Sort of. It allowed him to see connections others missed, to look at problems from completely new angles. He
Yeah.
wasn't afraid to think outside the box.
Most of us tend to stick to familiar paths, don't we?
We do. But Holmes explored every potential path, even the unlikely ones. The source defines this kind of creativity as seeing a problem from many viewpoints and finding unique solutions, thinking differently.
And this helps him notice things others don't.
Yeah, because he's considering possibilities they haven't even thought of. He might look at a crime scene and not just see the obvious sequence, but imagine alternatives. What if it happened this way instead?
The source also talks about visualization here, like running mental movies.
Exactly. He mentally simulates different outcomes. If I do X, what might happen? If theory Y is true, what would the consequences be?
That helps him choose the best path, avoid mistakes.
Definitely. It's like a mental rehearsal. You anticipate challenges, weigh risks, understand consequences before acting. Holmes uses this constantly visualizing, analyzing the visualization, and then refining his ideas. It guides him toward the right conclusion.
So how can we be more imaginative like that? The source has tips for this too, right?
It does. First, consciously try not to get stuck in one way of thinking. Force yourself to brainstorm alternatives. Ask, how else could I look at this?
Any tools suggested?
Mind mapping is mentioned. It helps you organize thoughts visually, non-linearly. You can see connections you might miss otherwise.
What about like mental state?
Yeah, things like meditation or visualization practices are recommended. They can quiet the analytical chatter and open up space for more creative thoughts.
And finally,
A really simple one. Ask what if questions.
Mm.
What if this assumption is wrong? What if I tried the opposite approach? Just asking those questions can spark totally new ideas.
Okay, fourth and final technique. This one feels crucial, but maybe overlooked. Emotional control.
Holmes's famous detachment.
It's not just him being cold, is it? It's a strategy.
Absolutely. The source emphasizes his ability to set aside feelings when he's working on a case. He focuses purely on the facts, the logic. Objectivity is key for him.
Why is that so important?
Because emotions cloud judgment, right? If you're angry or scared or even really excited, it's hard to think clearly and fairly. Personal biases creep in. Detachment helps ensure your conclusions are based on evidence, not feelings.
Makes sense. High emotion definitely interferes with logical thinking.
It really does. So learning to manage those emotional responses, like Holmes did, helps you face challenges more effectively. You stay calmer, more focused.
It's not about not having emotions, though.
No, not at all. It's about not letting them drive the bus when you need your rational mind in charge. It fosters clear, purposeful thinking, even under pressure.
The source even links this to Stoicism briefly.
Yeah, that ancient idea of focusing on what you can control, your thoughts, your reactions, and not getting worked up about what you can't. It's about managing your internal state to maintain that calmness and logic.
That Stoic approach definitely helps keep things rational when things get tough.
It builds resilience, allows you to use your cognitive skills effectively instead of getting bogged down in emotional turmoil.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap those 4 big techniques we've pulled from the source, inspired by Holmes. First, that powerful observation, paying close attention to detail.
Really seeing, not just looking. Second, managing your memory like that brain addict, being selective, keeping it organized.
Third, using imagination and creativity, thinking outside the box, visualizing possibilities.
And fourth, that crucial emotional control, staying objective and logical even when things get difficult.
It really feels like these aren't just fictional tricks, are they? They're actual cognitive skills you can develop.
Definitely. Understanding them and, more importantly, practicing them can genuinely help you sharpen your thinking, make better decisions. It's about applying these strategies to your own world.
So maybe take a second now, you listening, and think, which of these 4 really jumped out at you? Which one feels like it could make the biggest difference for you right now?
Yeah, think back to a recent challenge. How could things have gone differently if you'd been, say, more observant? Or if you'd approached it with more imagination? Or kept cooler under pressure?
That reflection is where the real value is, isn't it? Making it personal.
Exactly. Trying to consciously bring these ideas into your daily habits. That's how you start to see the benefits.
So, maybe the final thought to leave you with is this. Just consider the mysteries you could solve. Not grand London conspiracies, maybe, but the everyday complexities in your own life if you really committed to seeing more clearly, remembering more effectively, imagining more freely, and keeping a steady hand on your own thoughts.